Survival of the Fittest, the Sickest, is a book about why we need disease and how it promotes longevity. This book explains how we adapt to certain genes even though they can be harmful to us. This chapter focuses on the disease of hemochromatosis, which is a disease in which the body produces excess iron, and it also discusses the importance of iron in the body, with regards to its role in detoxifying poisons and moving oxygen throughout the bloodstream. One interesting part of this chapter was learning that bloodletting originated from barber shops, and also how the barber's pole symbolized bloodletting. In fact, barbers were basically the surgeons back in those ancient times.
Diabetes is another hereditary disease plaguing many Americans. It causes the glucose in your blood to build up to dangerous levels. The reason this is thought to be so common nowadays is because it gave our ancestors a long time ago an evolutionary advantage during the Ice Age. It acted as a sort of antifreeze. How cool, right? The more glucose in the blood, the lower the freezing temperature was.
Sunlight is crucial to our survival because it turns cholesterol into vitamin D, but it can also be harmful because it decreases the amount of folic acid, which is something that we need. Vitamin D deficiency is also associated with rickets disease, which can cause improper bone growth. Something really interesting that I learned about in this chapter was that sunblock is actually harmful to humans because it interrupts the process in which cholesterol turns into vitamin D and helps nourish our bones. Chapter 4 discusses the various uses of plants and how they can be both beneficial as well as dangerous. Plants have complex defense systems, almost like humans. G6PD is an important enzyme that is crucial to red blood cells, and it protects them by removing free radicals. It was really cool to learn about fava beans and their link to the genetic disease called favism. Basically, favism is a deficiency of the G6PD enzyme, and for people who have this disease, eating fava beans can be fatal. Chapter 5 talks about microbes and parasites. We learn about how an adult human can have 10 times as many microbial cells as well as mammalian cells. One interesting example of host manipulation discussed in this chapter was the relationship between the orb-weaving spider and the wasp. It's pretty amazing how the wasp can completely enslave the spider and basically take over its body.
Did you know that only about 3% of our DNA actually codes for proteins? The other 97% is known as junk DNA. What's interesting is that within our junk DNA are jumping genes, or transposons. These move wholly together and give genetic variety to an organism. Some scientists are also beginning to think that the reason humans were able to evolve so quickly and differently from primates is due to the borrowed DNA we get from viruses. Epigenetics is the study of changes in an organism caused by a change in gene expression without altering the DNA itself. Gene expression can be altered by DNA methylation. What's interesting about epigenetics is that it can be called into play across 3 generations, as the mother's habits affect the child and also the child's eggs if the child is female. An example of epigenetics in play is the supercharging of mouse brains by adding a dash of choline to the mother mouse's diet. Are we programmed to die in the same way that an iPod is? Each time our DNA replicates, the DNA strands get a little bit shorter, so we have telomeres at the ends of our DNA that protect information from getting lost. They act as kind of protective tips. However, there is a Hayflick limit on how many times the DNA can replicate before the telomeres run out, which is about 50 to 60 times. It's thought that we might be programmed to die to protect our precious DNA information from getting cut and stopping cancerous growth. From the odd pleasure that an old man got from donating blood, to the eccentricity of the fact that barbers used to be surgeons, and that diabetes was an antifreeze, to the confirmation of the fact that sunblock is bad for you, which deep down we all already knew, and that plants can kill you, to the irony of the fact that 97% of our DNA is junk, and that viruses are good for you, to the morbidity that comes with knowing that your grandmother affected your genes, and we might all be programmed to die, this book was mind-bogglingly diverse. It pushed our thinking capacities to the limit, tested our skepticism, and made us see the world in a whole new way. All in all, we thank you, Dr. Sharon Moalem, for devising and concocting this fantastically bizarre book.